Hey guys, it's Raymond from FHF Solutions again. The last video that we did was based on the tools that you're going to need for doing your backsplash. This is going to be what materials you're going to want to get from whatever store you go to. So let me go ahead and flip the video around so you can see. The first is obviously the tile itself. We've gone with an arabesque tile here. This is called a retro arabesque gray. We got it super cheap, which is why I'm allowed to do this on my downtime. Typically these run about $7, $8 for a sheet. They were on sale for $2 because they're coming from China and we can't get any more right now. So they have slashed prices to get it out of the store so they can get more inventory of something that they can restock. That being said, that's what I've chosen to do. I like it because one, I like the shape. Two, I like that it's on a mesh, so I can put it all up at once. I don't have to do them individually. You can buy these tiles and do them individually, but it takes about 10 times as long. So, you know, for my own sanity's sake, I've chosen to buy the kind that are on the net. If you're buying individual tiles like these are from an old job. You've kind of got a few things. You hear a lot about, subway tile. Well, there's a few different layouts that you can do with tile. This is just your basic, about as basic can be, basic, you know. All the lines, all the joints match up. Sounds super simple until you get into a big space. If it's a small space, you'll never see it. If you get into a big space, your lines can get off and then you're in trouble. But it's still super basic. The next layout is what you're hearing called subway. And that's where it's half on. So you see you've got half of a tile, full tile, half of a tile, full tile between your joints. So this distance is half of a tile length essentially. And then you've got what's called brick lay. And so let me pull these back a little bit. And that's 1/3 on, so that every fourth tile lines up on the joint of the first tile. And that is not super simple unless you've done it several times and you know how to line and lay everything out. So that's not a subway, that's called a brick lay, but that's kind of what it looks like. There are other patterns which you can do with different types of tile. Obviously you can't do a herringbone with a square tile. It just doesn't work. But a herringbone is kind of where you've got tiles that, let's see, double, like, so that's one tile. Then you would have a tile that kind of lays out in the chevron pattern with each tile. And so they just kind of, I can show you an example of that, but I can't do it with these square tiles. So just trust me, I will try to post a picture of what a herringbone looks like, or you can just Google it. Have done them. They're not simple, but they're absolutely beautiful. So how much tile are you going to need? Well, let's kind of go through how I figured out how much tile I need. And I'll set this camera up a little differently so that you can see what I'm doing here. Let's see, it's too high. All right, so going from one end of the counter to the other end of the counter. I've got essentially 9 feet. And then from the bottom of my counter to the top of where I'm laying the tile to is 14.5 inches. And so take out your calculator, multiply 9 by 12 to get how many inches is in 9 feet, which is 84. And then 84 inches times 14.5 inches will give you your actual square footage of that wall. But then you've got the return here, which you're going to have, an extra 25 inches here. You're going to have the other wall, which I'm not going to turn the camera. You kind of get the point. So once you figure out your total square footage of where you're going to put your tile, then we get back to how much do you need to have. And so let me sit down here and kind of go through some stuff. First of all, it depends on which tile you buy. If you're buying a simple tile like I did here, and I don't mean the arabesque pattern is simple, but it's on a 1x1 sheet. It doesn't create a lot of waste. I'm in a pretty small area, so smaller tiles tend to create less waste. Bigger tiles tend to create more waste. So if you've got a 1 foot by 2 foot tile and your backsplash is like mine, 14 inches tall, that means you're going to go 12 inches tall with your first tile, and then your second tile is going to be 2.5 inches minus the gap of the grout, which will basically mean that you're burning 10 inches off of each tile. That's a lot more waste. So kind of be cognizant of what you want your kitchen to look like. But then once you figure that out, figure out how much tile you're willing to spend, because tile can vary a lot in price. I've put tile down that's 59 cents a square foot. I've put this tile down, which is $2 a square foot. $2 a square foot right now, but typically it's $8 a square foot. I've seen tile that is $150 a square foot. And it's probably more expensive than that. But just to let you know, if you've got, myself, I've got 20 square feet here. I'm doing a simple lay. With a simple lay, you should expect probably about 10% waste if you know what you're doing. Maybe 15% if it's your first time, because you're going to have more miscuts and things like that. With this one, I would probably still stick to 10% because you've got all the individual pieces that you can take off and turn into other pieces. If you're doing a larger type tile like that, you should expect that you're going to have more like 15 to 20% waste. There are tricks to having less waste. Like I said, you're going to have 2.5 inches off of the second tile. You can flip that tile around and use the other 2.5 inches off the other bottom, so that you're taking 5 inches off the 12. You're still going to have 7 inches of waste. But at least that's, a lot less waste. But there are tricks, but you're still going to have a lot of waste. Other things that can contribute to your waste, and this word is for your chemists out there. Some tile is chiral, meaning that it's directional. If you think of a lock and a key, you've got the prongs coming out for the lock here and the key here. You've got 4 on one side, 3 on the other side, and that's how it matches up. 4 to 4 doesn't match up. Think male to female. It doesn't match up unless you've got them all going in one direction. That's going to create a little bit more waste. Your 10% is probably going to bump to 12.5%, maybe even 15%. Other things that are going to contribute to having more waste are your type of material. If you're using glass, glass breaks. It breaks a lot easier than ceramic tile does. If you're using porcelain, porcelain breaks, but it doesn't break, porcelain and ceramic don't break that much. Stone is very hard to work with, so you're going to have breakage. It's a natural material, whereas this is made from clay. It's baked clay. If you're using real stone tile, it's a natural product. It has flaws. If there's a rock in the middle of the stone that you weren't aware of and you were cutting right through it, when you hit it, it could bind the blade and break the stone. So stone can create more waste. It can also require that you use a bigger saw. Stone is very hard to cut. My little saw won't cut stone. I have to go rent something if I'm going to use it for cutting stone. So that's kind of how to think through. Like I said, mine is simple. I've got 10% extra waste here. I've actually got about 15% extra waste just because I plan on doing some stuff later on that is not part of the scope of this part of the project, because we can't afford to change the counters right now, so we're using the old counters. Once we pull those old counters up, we're going to have to match up the new stuff to the old stuff. So, so that's the tile. That's just the tile. Other than that, we've also got, let me flip the camera here. I'm using thin set. This is called Flex Bond. It's about one of the strongest things that you can use to put your tile on. This is absolute overkill for what I'm doing here, but I'm going to use this on my next project, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to use a quarter bag of this. It's way more than I need, but I'll use it on my next project. What you could use on a kitchen backsplash is what's called mastic. It's kind of designed for, it's pre-mixed. I have to mix this stuff. It's in a powder form. I have to mix it in a bucket. This comes pre-mixed. You open it, you use it, you close it up. I've used this probably 6 months ago and it's still good. So whereas the thin set, once you use it, it starts setting. The flip side to that is that this is not water resistant. This is water resistant. It doesn't really matter because, I mean, unless you're going to plan on your house being 5 feet underwater at some point, the thin set's going to hold. So, or the mastic's going to hold. I'm just not using it for this project. Grout. I've chosen a sanded grout. I'll explain why in just a second. The color that we have chosen is Snow White. I think it'll work really well against this. This is kind of a Snow White. You can kind of see the contrast here. So that's what I'm looking for between my grout and my tile. It's not a lot of contrast, but it's enough to show the beauty of the tile. Some people like to have a lot of contrast. Some people like to have no contrast. It's really your personal decision. It doesn't matter. The more contrast, the more perfect your job has to be, though. So just be aware of that. The herringbone job that I told you about, something you're going to discover when you're doing this is that your walls are not flat or square. They look flat, they look square, they are not. Just be prepared for it now. I'm letting you know. The house that we did the herringbone on, the wall probably had about a 1/2 inch variance from the front of one to the front of the other. And so the wall was wavy. So when you start putting longer tile on it, it kind of pops out on you. And so we used a grout that hid all those joints. This kitchen tile should be pretty flat. I could use as much contrast here as I really want to. I just don't want to. I don't particularly like it. Back to the grout. I'm using a sanded grout. The reason is because you see these joints. If your joints are anything really over 1/8 of an inch, you want to use a sanded grout because otherwise, first of all, the non-sanded grout is just going to keep falling out on you. It's a pain to work with. You can use non-sanded. I don't recommend it for anything that's larger than 1/8 of an inch. Just because it's very difficult to work with in the first place, and second of all because it doesn't spread as far, and third of all because it doesn't have that sand grit to hold everything in place, so to speak. It's just really like a liquid chalk that dries, and then the chalk is just chalk. Whereas the sand kind of holds it in place a little bit better. Again, it's overkill. I could use sandless here. I just don't want to. And then I've got this is, I'm not gonna say new, but a fairly new product, probably no more than 10 years old. Sanded caulk. This is the wrong color. This is from a different job. This is just so I could show you what it is. The color that I'm going to use is on back order right now, so it'll have to get done later. That's fine, but I just kind of wanted to show you what it is. When you finish everything up, you're going to have some rough edges that you don't really want to see. This will fill in where your grout did not, where it was hard to get your rubber trowel to fill the grout in the space. You come back later and put this in. If you end up having any air pockets in your grout, you can fill it in with this and it holds just fine, and it doesn't show, it blends. This is fantastic stuff. The last thing that I'm using material wise, you don't have to use this, that's why it's setting off to the side. It's called Schluter. Yes, it's German, it sounds German. It's called Schluter. And basically it is a edge that you put like this against the wall so that your tile, where my finger is on this side holding everything together, and then you've got a clean, this would be a nickel chrome edge. They sell them in white, they sell them in brushed nickel, they sell them in lots of different colors. So if you want to do a finished edge as opposed to a grout edge, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, go look at your secondary bathroom. I can almost guarantee you've got a grout edge. This is just for a finished edge because it's for a kitchen, and I just thought it'd look nicer. So that's everything on the materials other than water. You're going to use a lot of water. because you have to put water in the tile saw. You've got to use water to clean the tiles as you go. You've got to use water to mix the thin set. You've got to use water to mix the grout. You've got to use water to clean the grout. So it's a very messy process, but that's about it. So you need the tile, you need the thin set to put the tile on, you need the grout to fill in between the joints, and then I use the ceramic caulk. And like I said, if you choose, you can also use mastic instead of thin set. Each company, you don't have to use simple set. Each your Lowe's, your Home Depots, each different place has their own name brand. They all do the same thing. They come in colors though. So I've got white that I'm using. This one's gray. It's part of the reason I'm not using it is because I just didn't feel like going and buying gray mastic for a job I don't know that's coming up, whereas I know that I've got jobs that are coming up to do this. So I hope that answers all the questions in terms of what materials you're going to need, how to measure what materials you're going to need. I will tell you the nice thing about going to Home Depot is that anything you don't use, like if it's still in the wrapper like this, they will take back. And no question, you'll have to have the receipt, but they will take back and credit you, or however you bought it back. Once something's open, it's pretty much gone. But these are nice because they're single sheets, and I can go return them if I have too many. So that's about it. Again, if you have any questions, you can always call John at 512-426-2915, or you can call me, Raymond, at 512-818-6803. And again, this is FHF Solutions, and we're about to get started. So I'm going to go take some electric plugs off and just get them out of my way, and start doing some prep and cutting some tile. So I will have another video coming to show you what we're doing there. I don't think I'll have that much prep, so I'm just going to go from there and just kind of do all of that at once. So I'll see you on the next video.